Welcome to San Diego Integral, February 14th, 2026. Our topic today, Where We've Come From Tells Us Where We're Going, Past Lessons, Future Vision, presented by Dr. Karen Voorhees.
Welcome to San Diego Integral. I'm Tom Habib, and I'm a member of the San Diego Integral leadership team. Our best speaker is Karen Voorhees, and the topic will be Where We've Come From Tells Us Where We're Going, Past Lessons and Future Visions. We'll begin the presentation shortly, but first we have a few announcements. You can stay connected to San Diego Integral on Meetup or Facebook. Please join one of these groups. That way you'll be automatically notified when we have added a new event. You can also contact one of the leadership team through Meetup or email. And if you ever have questions or comments, feel free to ask them. There's more information about San Diego Integral on our website, sandiegointegral.org or Facebook. Our regular meetings are usually held the second Saturday of each month.
Okay, I would like to now give an introduction to our speaker of the day, Dr. Karen Voorhees. Karen is one of the smartest people I know and a very generous person, generous spirit. And it is obvious from her bio that she has been drawn to goodness, truth, and beauty her whole life. As a teen and young adult, she recognized the draw of enchantment and studied medieval times and medieval history at UC Berkeley. She went to Europe on a Fulbright scholarship and continued to study, and she also sought a spiritual path while she was in Europe and has continued with the spirituality throughout her life. She got a PhD from UC Berkeley in art history and medieval studies. And she has been involved in a number of things throughout her career. She's been involved in nonprofit organizations. She's worked with the elderly. She's worked with hospice. She is a writer. She writes essays. She writes novels. We're going to be blessed with one of her writings today, which she will read to us. And so you'll get a chance to understand her talent in writing. But she is just an all-round person, loves music, loves art, loves dance, all kinds of cultural things. And she likes to have fun, and she's into nature and potato latkes. What could be better, right? So thank you, Karen. We're really pleased to have you here today.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Very generous introduction. Thank you very much, Christine. I'd like to say just a few words about Kathleen Andrews, too. I was privileged to know her, work with her for the two previous presentations I gave here at San Diego Integral. She was so generous with her time and incredible experience. And she invited me to share a room with her at the last Icon conference in 2024. So I got a chance to spend a lot of time with her. She will be missed, dearly missed. And I know we're all kind of at San Diego Integral, all kind of scrambling to carry on without her. So let's carry on. What I'm doing tonight is not usual. I will be reading a piece of creative fiction set 11,000 years ago. This will take about 50 minutes. I hope I'll stop reading at the top of the hour. This is, I was trying to explore how we can understand integral as stories that appeal to everybody. Just how can we take integral out of our beautiful ghetto into the wider world? And that's one of the driving forces behind my creative writing. This, what I'm about to read to you, was an experiment I never expected to show anybody else, but it took on a life of its own. While I read, if you have questions or comments, I'm not going to interrupt the reading, which will take the rest of this hour. Put your comments or questions in the chat, and one of our hosts will curate that. When I stop reading, I hope that'll be around 5 o'clock. Maybe more, maybe less. If there are any questions that need answering right away for clarity, we'll address those. But what I'd like to do after that, in about an hour, is break up into discussion groups. Let's see, groups of 3 for about 15 minutes. And you can all discuss with each other how this landed on you. And then we'll come back and have a general discussion for the rest of our 2-hour session until 6 o'clock. That's the idea. Let's get started. Yes, I will start with a quote from Ken Wilber, whom I have been reading since 1983. I have read every major book Ken Wilber wrote as it came out. So my internal operating system is thoroughly Wilberian. And what he said in one taste was this: every realization of depth comes with a terrible burden. Those who are permitted to see are simultaneously saddled with the obligation to communicate that vision in no uncertain terms. That was the bargain. And now, as we go into the reading, I'd like to start with just a few minutes of a very simple breathing meditation, if you care to join me. We'll start by sitting comfortably. I like to roll my shoulders and adjust my seat so I'm as comfortable as I can. You shut your eyes or lower your lids with a soft focus and just withdraw your attention from the outer world onto the breath, simply focusing all attention on this breath in this moment, in this body, being here now. How does the breath feel going in? How does it feel going out? Simply witnessing, not trying to control, but witnessing the breath, like we witness the waves on the beach at the ocean. Witnessing each come in, witnessing each go out. And when next you hear my voice, imagine it is that of High Priestess Embe, and she is speaking to us from 11,000 years ago. Simply breathe. I know I will die in 2 days. I know where and how and who will drive the knife blade into my heart as the full moon rises. That is not why I tremble. I tremble for you, my people. What will become of you? I pray that you will catch the story my spirit is struggling to tell and heed my warning before my last breath leaves my body. 16 long years ago, you made me your high priestess. As we have gone forward together in our great change from foraging to farming, I have served our new gods by loving and serving you. You, in turn, have loved and supported me until now. In this latest crisis, you have turned on me. I cannot blame you for your bewilderment. Our great change has not been easy. At times, some of you have doubted, yearning to return to the days when we roamed in small bands on the bosom of the earth, our mother. Some among you have feared all along that our ancient spirits would curse us for leaving our old life ways. Still, until now, we had always endured in the face of every challenge, even through the troubles of these latest years, drought, and roaming bands of displaced tribes, and unrest here in town. But when the shadow of the earth fell upon our last full moon and darkened her face to blood, you, my people, despaired. A monster is eating the moon, one of you cried. Within a heartbeat, many of you flared in fright and took up the cry. The demons of terror and chaos spread like wildfire among you. A few cried out that the ancient spirits of the land had risen against us and cursed us at last. This fear, too, spread quickly. Very soon I gave up trying to calm you with words alone. Instead, I led you in songs and dances. You thought these were to strengthen the moon in her struggle against the demon that was devouring it as a snake swallows an egg, and that was true in its way. But the songs and dances I gave you were also an outlet for your frenzy, so you would not go out of your minds in terror. I helped you pace yourself to keep dancing and singing for nearly half the night until the moon came back again in her fullness. Then I helped you tell yourselves that your valor had vanquished the demon. As indeed it had, but the demons that night were in your hearts and minds as well as in the sky. I thought we had survived this crisis too, as we have survived so many others. But in the days that followed, our war leader Bahim cunningly stirred your fears again. It was he who incited you that I go to the gods as a human sacrifice. Let our high priestess herself go before the gods at the next full moon and beg them to take us back into their favor, he urged. Only our best will do. I knew that his real purpose, unspoken and self-serving, was to be rid of me. I have long thwarted his will to dominate the town council, but I also saw your terror. And when you came to me and pleaded, I thought I saw a way out of my own secret misery. When I said yes to you, I too had an unspoken purpose. Rather than suffer any longer from the cancer that was slowly devouring my body, I chose a swift, clean death from a knife thrust to the heart. I chose to leave you and abandon my struggle with Bahim and his followers. Now I see that this was self-serving on my part. Perhaps I too, like you, lost my courage. Perhaps this is why my vision failed me. I surely did not foresee what happened next. How quickly some of you allowed the voice of my enemy, Bahim, to seduce you further. Instead of pulling together, as I have taught you, you gave in to your fears once again and let him turn you against each other. In your distress, you even listened to those who declared that we must turn time backward and leave our farms to return to our smaller tribes and our old foraging ways. You listened to those who would tell a 6-year-old to go back to suckling at her mother's breast. Then you listened when Bahi made me the scapegoat for all that has gone amiss in recent years. More and more of you blamed me for leading you on a false path. When the brutal men of Bahim's warband seized me and abused my body for 3 days in the public square, none of you tried to stop them. Some of you joined them. Others of you, horrified though you were, enjoyed watching what they did to me. My terror for you runs as deep as my anguish for myself. Few of you can see the unclean spirits that you have drawn to yourselves, but they are with you even now. By the deeds of these last days, you have cursed and degraded yourselves for a long, long time to come. My people, what will become of you? None of the men who were beating me meant to kill me. They'd meant me to live 2 more days until the next full moon. Bahim knew better than to deprive you of the promised thrill of a human sacrifice. And you, in your innocence, most of you still thought my ceremonial death would win you back the god's favor. When Goran struck the blow that broke my rib, he was more horrified than anyone else. When my rib snapped and its jagged edge pierced my lung, and all the muscles of my torso clenched in spasm, and my breath stopped, and my spirit leaped out of agony into the light. It's hard to go on even in thought. My spirit weeps as I remember how eagerly I entered the tunnel that opened before me. How grateful I was to die. My people, I wish I could tell you this. We are so much more alive outside our earthly bodies than in them. I wish I could tell you. But if we knew, none of us would want to stay in our bodies at all. Maybe that is why, under the wisdom of the gods who guide us, we forget our true glory while we dwell on the earth, our mother, in these vessels of clay. I gather my courage and continue, struggling to shape in words the wonder that awaited me on the far side of that tunnel, the garden of the gods, the ringing radiance. Even the grass and flowers there are made of light, and of music and fragrance too. How can I describe trees that are as vast as hills, yet delicate as gossamer, or living cascades that sing with the voice of many waters? How can I name colors beyond those our earthly eyes can see? On a terrace, ringed by fountains of nectar that filled the space with bliss, I was received by beings of light. Mighty as they are, and puny and flawed as I am, they greeted me with tenderness and with absolute unconditional love. Their cleansing light washed through me. I knelt in spirit and surrendered to its scouring. In the face of such acceptance, there is no place to hide anything, least of all the rage and horror that were reverberating throughout my body of light. The jagged shards of my rage sliced through me like knives as the gods drew them forth from me, an agony greater than any I had yet known. It took an utmost effort of will to release my darkness into those searching hands, but the pain passed. In a moment, it seemed, and then I was at peace in the presence of these glorious beings. So it was in truth more their doing than mine that after your betrayal and 3 days of torment at your hands, I did not ask the gods for vengeance or even for justice. In that garden of light, I asked those beings of light to forgive what you had done to your high priestess. Then I recited to them your prayers for mercy exactly as you had begged of me before Bahim turned you against me. The gods had to help me with this too. They reached out and held me with their strength ere I finished, or I would not have made it through. When I fell silent, everything around me had become even lovelier. A golden mist now filled the terrace with a sweetness I could taste and feel as well as see. It was joy, joy bursting forth from these godly beings. They were that pleased with my feeble effort to forgive. They used no words at all, but a pure, shaped essence of meaning that is impossible to mistake. It flowed into my understanding in swirls of unearthly music. In human words, what they said to me might run thus: "You have opened the way for us to show you our hopes for your people. When you have seen what you are about to see and have understood the choice that lies before them, you will have a choice of your own. You may remain here with us, or you may return to your earthly body. And there complete the ceremony you and your people have planned for the next full moon, and then return to us." A veil seemed to lift. Off to my right, I saw a lane of majestic trees like nothing on earth. Between the trees floated a row of exquisite shimmering globes, each one larger than my own body of light. At the invitation of the gods, I approached the first globe. Vividly in my mind's eye, I see again the images therein. Humans roaming the earth in small bands, clad in furs and coarsely woven garments of grasses. Even now, as I lie here once again in my earthly body, my every breath a struggle, the images in that globe seem more real to me now than my own flesh. My understanding expanded as I gazed into the globe. I knew this globe to be showing me the first age of humanity, when we lived much like our animal brethren, but with fire and simple tools. How uncountably many years we lived this way. But even as primitive as we are in this era, we already have something beyond any other creatures. Images arise in our minds, and we have words for these images, few and simple in the beginning, but with our spoken words, we can act in packs as never before, and more. We can imagine and make new tools that befit new environments. Sometimes we even trade our goods with other tribes. We are more adaptable than any other beings, even our near human cousins. I watched for what seemed a long time, fascinated at the fierce primal joys and pains of our days, and the terrors of the nights we spent close huddled around our fires. Each one of these globes was to show me another age of humanity. This lay clear in my understanding as I moved on from the first to the second. Yet for a while, the moving images here seemed no different from the first. Humans are still foraging on the face of the earth. But as we spread far and wide in our small bands, changes come more rapidly. As the years pass, we make ever more elaborate tools and weapons and garments and dwellings. In this second era, we are becoming self-aware, although at first we do not realize it. Our dreams and imaginings have always mixed fluidly and interchangeably with our psychic senses and with our bodily senses as well. In the spirit life that speaks to us from every rock and bush and bend in the river, we also feel our own sentience reflected back to us. Now we are beginning to distinguish between them. Our wisest leaders, our shamans, help us live and move in this sometimes wondrous, sometimes terrifying world of spirit matter. And we are using language in more complex ways than before. In this second age of humanity, we begin to see patterns and seek meaning in them by way of stories. We see patterns in the stars and tell stories about them to each other. We make stories about the living spirits we sense in everything around us. We see our world as filled with magic and beauty. We create art and music. We tell stories about our origins. We bury our dead with rituals and prayers. My people, this is the life way many of us knew in our own childhoods and youths before we settled into these new farming towns. But at least 5 more globes awaited me beyond this one. What would the gods show me in these? I seethed with eagerness to find out. Excuse me. When I moved on to the 3rd globe, I saw vast numbers farming on a scale so immense I was staggered. How far the spread of farming can take us if we follow our new gods into this new era. You will find this hard to believe, but I see great wild beasts tamed and harnessed to till our fields and carry our burdens. Humanity multiplies and spreads like never before. Larger towns appear, then splendid stone cities. It is as if the earth, our mother herself, is rising up and taking new shapes to shelter these new societies. So many styles of craft and culture, so many songs and stories. In this 3rd era of humanity, we are becoming aware of our own capacities. But just as with our sentience, at first we do not understand that these capacities are innate in us. For a long while, we see them reflected back to us in our stories of gods and goddesses. By invoking our gods in prayer, we are learning to call up our own powers in a deliberate act of will. My heart smiles to see how the rituals that we create in the God's honor will help us gain further control of our impulses and abilities. This enables us to live and work close packed in ever larger communities. I watch as diverse tribes come together into larger groups. City-states arise. And then, as millennia pass, great empires. Goods and ideas will be traded far and wide. Even as terrible new diseases strike in the crowded cities and spread along trade routes, fewer die of hunger or violence or exposure. More young children die, but of those who live to grow up, more live to grow old. While I see much in this 3rd globe that makes me rejoice, there is also much darkness along with the light. Primitive savageries lessen in this era, yet many brutalities are only increasing. I see great warlords protect their peoples from random violence, but their rule is often oppressive. Some are far worse than Bahim. Fighting is less frequent, but wars are much larger in scale. Most horrible of all, slavery becomes commonplace. Still, in spite of the brutalities, some people are living longer and some better than before. The new songs and stories give meaning to the lives of the men and women of these times, and sometimes joy. The 4th globe, when I place my eager attention there, shows great stone cities so huge they stun my mind. Around them stretch cultivated fields beyond reckoning. Written language is mastered, then metalwork in bronze and iron, then coinage. To human and animal power, we add wind and water power. How vastly these enhance the works of the human mind and spirit. And the new advances are inner as well as outer. Ever more individuals reach great heights of spiritual realization on the high ranges of truth. A few dare to share their inner treasures with the masses. Great religions take shape. At the same time, more and more of the people become outwardly aware of our innate sense of moral law. This they project onto their new divinities. These new religions spread far and wide. Side by side with the moral codes fostered by these new religions, the empires bring forth codes of civil law. At their best, they bring in a new order that advances civilization to another level. Whole new forms of family, polity, and society arise. Ever greater cities and ever greater civilizations spread across the planet. But the price paid for this move into law is also very high. Literacy spreads, but as it does, the openness to the subtle energies that we'd all known in the dawn of humanity fades even further from our collective awareness. My heart weeps as I see the foraging peoples dying out wherever the great civilizations touch them. Wars rage on a scale Pahim could never imagine. Driven by the shadow side of these new religions, people persecute each other in the name of their single gods. Women are subjugated instead of respected. Slavery and oppression spread even more widely than before. The visions in the fifth globe are stranger yet, but I can still make some sense of them. Here are cities like crystal clusters as huge as hills. Inconceivable numbers of people live in them. Deep thinkers are discovering some of the spiritual laws that govern the natural world. We use our new grasp of natural law to amazing effect. Steam, then bitumen, then even lightning are harnessed to put vast power in the hands of ordinary folk. Unliving devices carry people and goods everywhere almost effortlessly, even through the air. In this era, the worst of the brutalities begin to decrease. Slavery largely vanishes from the earth. I rejoice to see most children born alive living to grow up, and most of them live to grow old. Astonishing! And just as wonderful, we begin to reach out to each other through subtle devices that let us speak instantly over great distances. Some societies are even beginning to take responsibility again for the well-being of each and every member. But side by side with incredible prosperity among some of the Earth's people, others are trapped in poverty and misery. We wield weapons of godly power while our wisdom is still all too human. War is less frequent, but when it happens, it is devastating on a scale unthinkable in earlier ages. And the great wild places of the earth are beginning to sicken. The sixth globe shows me networks of fairy lights all over the planet, brighter than the stars at night. I gape at the sheer beauty of it. Vast knowledge is available to vast numbers of people. Many are using this to improve the material quality of life for more and more of the populace at an ever faster pace. Even better, more of the brutalities are being overcome. While much remains to be done, ideals such as tolerance, fairness, justice, and well-being for everyone begin to spread globally like never before. New forms of spirituality overflow the vessels of tradition and flourish in spite of widespread cynicism. And here is the greatest wonder of all. Among the countless marvels I am witnessing, this is the one that makes my heart sing with joy. In this age, I see the multitudes finally begin to understand what only very few have ever seen before this. We are all, everyone, everywhere, one tribe, one people, one family sharing one life on this beautiful oasis in space. This new mutation of consciousness, like the ones in earlier eras, spreads slowly at first, then begins shaping entire cultures. But as before, the cost for these advances is high. With great effort, we have pulled back our aggressions into smaller, less devastating wars, but war there still is. Dire poverty lessens rapidly even as I watch, but it is still widespread with its ghastly toll of suffering. And even while poverty is lessening and increasing numbers of people have an ever higher quality of life, human population is mushrooming as never before. There are suddenly so many of us, and we have harnessed so much of the natural world to our uses that we are affecting the entire web of life, even to the very climate. The need to address these problems globally is dire. Yet some self-serving leaders are still able, like Bahim, to exploit the fears of the people in dark, destructive regimes that preach hate and suspicion instead of tolerance and unity. Such regimes pull us apart and take us backwards at a time when more urgently than ever before we need to move forward together. Are we learning fast enough? Will we suffocate the web of life upon the earth, our mother, and with it ourselves? The seventh globe was yet harder for me to see, but here were marvels even stranger than before. Some of the cities are becoming as beautiful as forests. No, now some of the cities are beautiful forests. The buildings are immense trees. They are trees grown under conscious control by those skilled in such crafts. The great city centers are now living garden-filled wonderlands that tower as tall as mountains. Each of their interwoven branches is so vast it can contain an entire town. As they grow, they draw dangerous vapors out of the air and cleanse the atmosphere. They harvest sunlight and wind for energy. The thousands of millions of people who live in these vast, sky-reaching cities grow so much food in them that we are able to reduce the amount of land under cultivation. I see the rate of human population growth slow and stabilize and then begin to decrease as all women everywhere gain full control of their own lives and bodies and fertility. In this seventh age of humanity, dire poverty is finally abolished from the earth. So much is done by unliving devices that many, many can devote the work of their days less to life's necessities and more to health and sports and spiritual growth and culture and learning and caring for each other. After several disasters, we finally harness our will and slow the heating of the planet to a pace that averts all-out catastrophe. Bitumen-based energy is replaced by cleaner means that I cannot grasp even with my wide, expanded understanding. Easier to see is how we also plant vast numbers of trees to reforest the planet and draw ever more of the dangerous vapors out of the air. As the pace of new learning and new skills continues to increase, we grow wiser and more skillful in our use of resources. The natural world begins to recover, slowly at first, then more quickly. Even as population growth slows and reverses, populations continue to withdraw from the countrysides to concentrate in the cities. More and more of the surface of the earth returns to wilderness, meticulously monitored and tended by those who delight in the natural world. Grave challenges still arise, but as they do, I see them being managed by means of new skills and crafts that arise to meet them. A decent quality of life for each and every human becomes sustainable within a healthy life web upon the earth, our mother. In this era, ever larger numbers of men and women are reaching advanced states of consciousness. We grow in wisdom, insight, and compassion. More and more of us begin to grasp how deeply we are all interconnected with everyone and everything at every level. As in the previous eras, this new awareness filters through to shape entire culture. Life becomes beautiful and meaningful for more and more of the people. And as the natural world renews itself, the awareness of subtle energies that we all had in our earliest days reawakens in more and more of it. And as it does, we also find that some regions of the world have preserved this ancient wisdom for the benefit of us all. This joins and strengthens the form of spirituality that has risen later. Together they blossom into many beautiful life ways. Our subtle communication devices grow ever more powerful. They connect us on an ever growing scale. We reach out and form interlinked clusters with each other in a neural network that swiftly spans the planet. I watch, entranced, as we and our communication networks become a brain for the Earth, our mother. Suddenly, I feel a jump into an even higher intensity. I'm seeing differently, as if a new dimension is unfolding around me. I look back along the line of globes I've already visited, and a sudden vertigo seizes me. Somehow I am looking straight down upon that first globe. At the same time, I am looking out and back at it. How can this be? I struggle to grasp how space shapes itself in this higher dimension. Now I am receiving impressions rather than images. It's a struggle to shape these into any kind of story at all. But I will try. This seventh globe in front of which I now float is showing me a story about a possible seventh age of humanity upon the earth, our mother. But this seventh age is more than just a next new era. This new age begins an entire new cycle of ages in a new second tier. It will repeat the cycle of the first 6 eras, but on a new, subtler level. This is why I am seeing that first globe below me as well as behind me. And with this, it all begins to make more sense. In the 6 globes of the first tier that I've just seen, we humans awaken and craft new modes of awareness and new capacities. This seventh globe begins a whole new second tier in which the earth, our mother, will awaken as a conscious being. She too will grow in complexity of awareness in the same stages as we individual humans are doing in the first tier. This new second tier planetary consciousness will emerge through us. Humanity does more than become a physical brain for the earth, our mother. We each carry part of her consciousness too. And nonetheless, we also continue to grow as individuals, even as more and more of us participate in a planet wide consciousness. We continue to become ever more fully our unique selves. In this second tier cycle, there will also emerge among ourselves ever new forms of consciousness, culture, science, and society. But in every one of those globes that I had seen in the first tier, shadows darkened even as the lights brightened. Such shadows seem to reach far into this second tier also. Maybe it must be so in every age. While we live on earth, in these bodies of clay, we cast a shadow whenever we stand in the light. The earth, our mother herself, casts a shadow, as she did at the blood moon that hurled me into horror. And with that thought, a terrible tremor shook me to my core. Might the shadows that emerge in this new second tier be even worse than those in the first? I looked searchingly to see, but the globes had all emptied. This contraction of fear had closed my vision. I didn't want to stop. There were more globes in the second tier, and I glimpsed even more tiers beyond that. But when I strained to see further, it all dissolved into blinding light. Then the vision changed abruptly. Now there was only one globe, directly in front of me. In it, I saw only one image, a toddler. It was standing but wobbling back and forth, struggling to take its next step. It was either going to take that step forward very soon or fall down hard backwards. I knew at once that this toddler stands for you, my people. Time seemed to expand as I pondered this image, and insights unfolded further in my mind. This toddler may fall down hard now, but nonetheless, it will eventually learn to walk as long as it keeps trying. Humanity will eventually make it into its next stage. Of course it will. Evolution is one of the great natural laws that drives manifestation. I'd seen that clearly in the fifth globe. Occasional backslidings are mere ephemeral eddies in the great river of time. And for so long as we are embodied in these vessels of clay, time flows in one direction and one direction only, onward, into ever greater complexity. So, in the larger scheme of the highest gods, it is not so very important whether this particular wobbling toddler, you, my people, whether you succeed in taking this next step now, if you do not break through to the next new era, sooner or later, some others will. As soon as I grasped this, everything changed again. The globes and garden and the gods all vanished. I seemed to be back in my earthly body, but long ago, during my childhood, when my shaman teacher took me to the high mountains to watch trout struggle upstream to spawn. I seemed to be again in my 8-year-old body by the same cascading stream, standing on the same glistening boulder, holding onto the same overhanging fir tree, its bark rough and sticky with sap under my hands. Breathlessly, I watched a trout gather itself for its great leap up to the next pool, just as I'd watched it in my childhood. But this time, in the lower pool, I also saw, as if in one of those globes of vision, the foraging tribe of my early childhood. Then I looked at the upper pool, so large and inviting. There, under its surface, I saw our town. But I saw it as it might be in years to come. Ripe, heavy grain stood ready for harvest in the very fields that you, my people, had only just begun to mark out when the blood moon changed everything. Insights unfolded in my mind as I watched that trout circle in the lower pool, gathering its strength. If it fails this leap for the upper pool and falls back, it will be bruised and exhausted. It might not be able to try for that upper pool again for a long time. The meaning behind this vision given me by the gods shone clear in my mind. My people, if in your fear your shadow side prevails now, then you will fall back hard. Your debasement under Bahim will take you far into darkness and suffering for a long time to come. The trout leaped. It landed slap across the lip of the upper pool, struggling with all its might against the down-rushing current. Fast as thought, I reached out in urgent desire to nudge this trout up into the next pool. Slam! And I was back in my earthly body, in an explosion of lurid pain. The gods had granted me the choice I'd made in will, though not in words. My chest muscles had relaxed from spasm enough to let me draw breath again. By your time, I'd been out of my body only briefly. I have since learned that during those 3 days of outrage against me, you who remained my friends and allies had been gathering strength too, much like that trout circling in the lower pool. I am told that when I collapsed unbreathing at Goran's blow, some of you arose and faced down Bahim's gang. Then, when my body began breathing again, everybody backed off. I thank the gods that it did not come to a fight among you. And I thank the gods for the care with which you, my friends, claimed my body and carried me here to safety, and are tending me now with such loving kindness. In spite of crushing pain at every breath, I rest peacefully, taking joy in your company. But the clash of wills in this town is not resolved. An uneasy truce holds between the factions. A third of you wish Bahim to rise up and overthrow the town council and seize control. You who are of this mind believe you will prosper under the rule of this one strong man. You are deluded. As soon as Bahim has no further use for you, he will discard you too, as he discarded me long ago. At least it seems likely that I will live long enough to die again 2 days from now. No one of any faction is going to make a move until all can see what omens the gods send at my ceremonial death. If you only knew how gladly I will go to it. The healers have done what they can for me, but everything hurts. Breathing hurts most of all. Returning to this body was a far greater sacrifice than leaving it again will be. I could have stayed in that bliss-filled garden. I came back to you because I want you to understand this, my people. Your bright future is not lost to you. You can still claim it if you hold to your courage and go forward together. How much of wonder lies ahead for you if you go this way? Or if you give way to your fears again and break apart into your former, smaller tribes, you will fall backwards. You will go down the darker path that befits the darkness of your recent deeds. How much suffering awaits you if you go this way? But the body to which I have returned is so broken I cannot tell you any of this. Even if there were words or images in our earth-bound language to share what I have seen, I can barely draw breath to whisper a word or two at a time. I am unable to tell you how much the gods love you, how much they wish blessings for you, how much they hope you will choose the brighter path. They will love you beyond your understanding, no matter what course you take, but they will not choose for you. Or maybe they cannot. And I cannot warn you about the choice before you. I do the only thing left. Though every breath I take is an act of will in the face of brutal pain, I set myself to keep breathing for 2 more days. When the next full moon rises, you will see me go willingly to my sacred breath, death. Maybe by this you will know yourselves to be forgiven, to be blessed by the gods. Maybe this will help you claim your courage and move forward. Yes, forward, even as you hold on to the best of the old ways and bring them with you. This is the prayer I will take to the gods for you. May you take courage in these dark times and move forward into your bright future. My people, how much the gods love you, how much I love you. I pray that you may be blessed now and forever. Okay, that's the reading. Oh, what time? Oh, hey, on the dot, 5:01.
Fabulous, Karen.
So at this point, let's see the any questions that the moderators think should be addressed right now before we break into discussion groups?
Are there any questions for the discussion groups, or
Just
is it
short,
just how it
short,
landed on us?
yeah, short questions for clarity. So let's see, Eloy has the Q questions for discussion groups. Basically, it's how did this land on you? Was there anything that particularly resonated? What did this awaken in you? Anything you wanted more of, less of, vehemently object to?
It's in the chat.
It's in the chat. Excellent. So are there any questions that you need clarified before you go into the breakout discussion groups quickly? If not, we'll go into our groups.
Breakout sessions are not recorded.
So are we sharing impressions?
Oh, just ongoing discussion, comments, questions. What came up for you for a creative writer? This is extremely useful. How did this land on you is kind of the core question. I'd love to chew over specific details and interesting mental things, but just kind of how did it land on you?
So I'll go first. Emotionally, the vision of the future was so optimistic, even though I'm well aware of spiral dynamics, that it increased my faith. And I love that phrase you said. You implied this idea of not allowing the occasional backsliding of the ephemeral eddies in life.
Mhm.
Because where there's an experience we have when shadow shows up and it seems to, reign as pessimism and sadness and danger, individually, we still have a choice. Are we going to give into the shadow and the unconscious, or are we going to have faith and vision and primarily live there? Because that has always been the evolutionary impulse. So I love this story of you're using mythic stories to translate something very sophisticated.
Mhm.
And I love it, how you did it. And for me, a lot of you know I'm a clinical psychologist,
Yeah.
that we talk about shadow as if we're fully aware of the depths and the dimensions of it. We are only in the beginning of the forest in shadow. And what I love about what you're doing is the more focus upon what is driving me in this moment, the more freedom we have to choose. Whereas fear is actually an act of being overwhelmed. You don't even, choosing isn't even on the horizon anymore. But where we actually show up, where we choose, we don't react. I mean, this language we recognize from other discussions. Are we reactive or acting? But it's easier to state the goal than to practice it. How much fear quickly overwhelms all of us. So I have all kinds of reactions to it. Bravo. I think you did an incredible job, but I'll stop there.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed the story itself, but also, Karen, just your delivery of the story was also wonderful. It reminded me of, listening to audiobooks and hearing people change their voices and tell a story in imaginative ways. So I did really enjoy it and felt it was very thought provoking. Uh, Really, the priestess left us with more to consider than she solved. But clearly, it was also, I guess, the biggest message I came away with was she loved her people. And it was from that place of love that she wanted to give a gift. And I think that was, for me, one of the most powerful parts of the story that was very, very evident to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I see, Larry, I see your hand up.
Yeah, as I was listening, I kept picturing how cool it would be if you took your story and put it into AI and said, illustrate this so we can watch the video.
Ooh, well, in fact, my dear friend and production manager, Bet Bolhofer, actually created some
Ah,
images using AI, that was her way of learning AI. And you'll notice I have put in the chat the link to Blood Moon. The text that I read from is on my website, and her illustrations are there. And what I'm going to be doing, I hope, is using AI. See, this story, it's taken the image up the ages was I wanted to kind of expand my understanding from long ago reading Ken Wilber's Up from Eden, which as a cultural historian made so much sense to me. But I wanted to articulate that in mythic language. And but then I thought when I decided to wrap a story around it just to make it more than an abstract exercise, I took some chunks out of the novel I'm writing, a few key pieces, and wrapped it around. But the novel is a mess, and I am going to be using, and it is the story of Embe. And do hope, as Tamar knows, she's in my writing group. I do hope to use this current AI to help with some of the messy parts, to help do 80% of the hard work of turning draft 2 into draft 3, and then do the more grand overview stuff myself. So I do expect to be using AI at some point. And I see Trudy, you have your hand up.
Yes, wonderful job, Karen.
Thank you.
It was a great story. Um, I need to ask, who do you know, or is it yourself that has experienced a near-death experience? Because what you're describing is having gone to the other side and coming back.
Yes. I have not experienced a near-death experience. However, I have been meditating for over 40 years. My friend Lynn, who's here, and I have been on the spiritual path. And I actually calculated, my friend Bet challenged me. I have spent somewhere north of 32,000 hours meditating over the
Wow.
last 4.5 decades. Yeah, yeah. It's 2.5 hours a day for 35 years. I'm not doing quite that anymore. However, our spiritual path goes into great detail about the quote inner planes. And now there's all this literature about near death experiences. And I have read many, many, many. So I'm very familiar with other people's versions. I've ended up acting as a death doula 7 times for relatives before I'd even heard of the term. So I've been kind of present as people pass over. So it was no, I have not had a near-death experience, and I have not had much in the way of conscious out-of-body experiences. But it doesn't take much. It's just even the tiniest little taste of being conscious outside the body, and I'm prepared to. Oh, I totally, sure. I mean, we don't know until we experience it ourselves. But I'm 100%. I'm 100%, 10% sure, and can say with passion that we are a lot more alive outside these bodies than in them. But the near death aspect, it is fiction. This is a work of fiction.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
It does, and I was sharing with my little group that here at the end of January, beginning of February, I went to a conference I attended online. The whole thing was basically about spirituality, and one of the presenters had a death experience and was given a choice of coming back, and they
Really?
did. Yes. So- and her description of it was it was so peaceful,
Mm.
and I can't even, I don't have words to adequately describe it, but she was saying if she was surrounded by love,
Yeah,
and it was so and warm and inviting, it was like being in the womb, that she didn't want to come back.
yeah.
But in the communications from loved ones were not verbal at all, they were feelings. And that nobody told her in a way to come back. She was just given a vision of what would happen if she did
Mm,
not.
mm.
And so she knew that her destiny was to come back into her body. And it was, anyway, that was one little piece
Cool.
of like a 4-day conference. I'm not going to go into the rest of it, but it was really
Yeah.
very powerful and very, very spiritual.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've read a lot, and typically people, once they realize what it's like out of it, they don't want to come back, and a lot of them are kind of forced to come back. I will just do one quote, and then I go to Lynn from Maulana Rumi. One of his whammy quotes goes, "If the kingdom of heaven and the way to it were known, no one for a moment would remain here."
Mhm.
And that I kind of internalized that message. Thanks, Trudy. So, Lynn,
Okay, I'm unmuted actually.
yeah.
Well, Karen, it was wonderful. You
Oh, thank you.
you know, I mean, I love you, but
Yeah.
this, objectively speaking, this was wonderful. And I have this belief, that when I write something, um, I definitely have the distinct feeling that it's not me writing it. If it's any good,
Mm,
and if it's me writing it, I quit because it's not that good. But this comes through you.
yeah.
It's a gift, and it comes through you, and it was wonderful, absolutely wonderful. It even had a happy ending.
Oh, yeah, sort of.
The last sentence or two,
Yeah.
that's required. And your descriptions. And we got into this discussion about how history repeats itself and how similar our current times are with what Embe was going through. And the urge to go back to the good old days, forgetting the way a mother forgets what it was like to be in labor.
Yeah.
Um, the good old days. And so, yeah, we're having the good old days today, and we're having the resistance to change and so forth and so on. So, yeah, we'll
Yeah. Who?
we'll talk at more length later.
Yes, we will. Yes. Who was it who said history does not repeat itself, but it rhymes? Was that Winston Churchill or somebody?
Probably
Yeah.
sounds
There.
like Mark Twain to me.
Yeah. But there, I have this chart I made, a more an intellectual academic presentation, and there are patterns that repeat over and over again, and this is the complexity and the emergence of whole new orders of complexity. To the next new order of complexity tends to emerge through a period of great turbulence. And this is repeated, from the Big Bang. The pattern goes all the way back to the Big Bang. In human societies, those periods of turbulence, while the next new emergent order is just forming and not yet formed, these tend to be dark ages in our history.
Mhm.
And we're going through one right now. And so as a cultural historian, I look at these trajectories. Okay, I'm going to quote, some of you are familiar with Jim Rutt of Game B. He says it's one of these integral adjacent groups. He was affiliated with I think he ran the Santa Fe Institute for a while, which kind of formulated the whole concept, the sciences of chaos and complexity. And he said, see if I can retrieve this, that if you take just one trajectory, you cannot draw very, very robust conclusions from it. But if you have a bundle of trajectories and they all form more or less the same arc, you can draw robust conclusions. And as a cultural historian, that's my PhD, I see some repeating patterns.
Mhm.
And I've looked at this. I've got charts and so on. But now that I'm a creative writer with this phase of my life, it was more fun to try to tell it in a story.
So we take 10 steps forward and 9 steps back, and 10 steps forward
But
and
but the
9
ones
steps
but
back.
the one step forward is an order of magnitude more complex and
Yes.
powerful than the stage before. And here's the other thing, and this was for if any of you were at Icon 2024, Bobby Azarian gave a presentation. He showed a chart that really got me jumping up and down. Um, Ray Kurzweil put it together, the trajectory of biological life. He charted on a chronological scale the emergent of the next major order of complexity in biological life. something that you could not predict from previous. And the next one emerges, each next one emerges an order of magnitude sooner than the ones before. It was almost a straight line plotted on a logarithmic scale. And as a cultural historian, I see something like that with human. The next emergent order of complexity, like from foraging to agriculture, and then to the high, and so on. So this seems to, and you can trace that pattern back to the Big Bang. So there are some very robust patterns here. This is evolution is not done with us. Why would we think after 13? This is one of my, I'm on my hobby horse now. At 13.82 billion years of this universe, why would we think that evolution would stop with us now? Of course not. Okay, but if we don't make it through some other related, some other universe in the multiverse will, even if we don't. But let's try at least. I think the odds are with us. Anyhow, I've burbled enough. Who else has something to toss into the pot here?
Just that I don't necessarily believe that the odds are with us. I mentioned in my group the reality of entropy of the universe as a whole, or at least our current universe. If there are others, we can't prove it, but that will eventually just go kaput. The sun will burn out, and all the other things as well, maybe zillions of years ahead, but there is no guarantee that. I just don't know. I always end up saying I can't know and I don't know.
Okay.
It's wonderful to have these stories that are uplifting and exciting. I actually felt several times, I felt like those fish, what are they called in English?
The trout.
Yeah, how the energy of that, I felt myself in them trying to get up that river. And so in that sense, the story was totally powerful.
Thank you.
I ached when she was stabbed and tortured. So it's a beautiful way of bringing some of that thinking to others.
Thank you. Yes, and go ahead.
Yeah. So making it into a book with illustration, all of that sounds wonderful.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tamar, I know.
You know that I'm going to join.
Down.
Okay. Suzanne, thank you, because I don't want to be the first skepticist. And I am leery of extrapolation because extrapolation work until they don't. And why? And I don't think that anything will happen automatically unless we do something about it. And the difference between our time and ambi time was that the world was vast and humans were very, very small portion of it. So if there was a new development, they had where to go. I see some people evolving, but I don't see that we can, at least what we see now in the speed that everything works, taking everybody with us. I just don't see it happening. And if there are a few of us that do evolve, we almost don't have where to go. And we are going to be in a great danger. So I just, and I'm not, and I don't want to say that I'm pessimistic, but I think okay, I'm realistic. I don't think I'm pessimistic.
Yes, all right,
okay?
realistic.
And I think we have to do something about it. I don't know what, but I don't think it will come automatically. It's not that all of a sudden, I don't know, the Messiah come and will take us all up. No, it will not. Because sometimes it sounds messianic to me. I mean, or whatever belief system you come up from. But I think we should work on it. And we should find a way to work on it, not like the past revolution that just created more harm than good. How to do it from love and just take other people with us, I really don't know. And I think my thinking is there's something that we need to think about it as a group. And I wish I could find people who think like me and want to talk about it. Now I'll shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I turn to Lorraine, I'll just say, yes, actually, Suzanne and Tamar, where I agree with you is that it's not guaranteed. A positive outcome is not guaranteed. This challenges us, and that was Mbe's drive. And that's why I'm taking the trouble to try to tell her story. This challenges, these times challenge us to be our very best, like that trout. It's at the utmost we can do to make it up into that next pool, but let's at least try. So, okay, let's see. Who had your hand up? Was that Lorraine?
Green.
Yes.
Yeah, I on the issue of hope for the future, nothing is guaranteed. I must say that what happened in Minneapolis gave me unbelievable mountains of hope.
Yes.
You know, everyday people having the courage of heroes to stand up for others at the risk of their own lives.
Yes.
It was so moving that that gave me tremendous hope. That humans surprise you. There's always a little element of surprise, and then boom, suddenly they're more than just everyday humans. So, but
Yeah.
thank you, Karen. That was really lovely and dramatically conveyed, and created an image of a priestess that really loved her people. Which is another, I think that's part of the message, that I will do this. I love you. And I want to share this with you. So thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Lorraine. Yes, I mean, I actually put this together, gosh, I think Trump had already been elected the first time when I started assembling this. And I kind of thought, oh, gee, that the bad guy is kind of like, parallels Trump. And I had no idea where this was going to go. And actually, when I thought of applying to do a presentation, I was going to do a more, typical show my chart up the ages and so on. And then, but this was the visceral where I try to listen to kind of the priestess in my deep psyche saying, no, 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 this is not the time for another. There are many beautiful intellectual things. This story was written for now, and now is when kind of it wanted to come out. So I kind of thank you folks for letting me experiment on you. But yes, I've been very moved by what's been happening everywhere, but especially Minneapolis and the songs the new songs they've been creating. I mean, this is kind of like the civil rights. There's some resonance with the civil rights movement, that kind of bringing people together. Okay, I see Chris.
Good job, Karen. That was
Thank
great.
you.
It's something that came up in our group and that I think has been alive for me is reflecting on like fiction as a pedagogical tool, and that you're illustrating these very sophisticated theories or integral ideas, but in a way that's palatable, and that fiction has that ability to engage that human, I guess, yearning for story and meaning
Yes.
making. And I think that, like what you said, this could have been a more academic presentation with charts and overviews and that sort of thing. But the fact that you have this story element in it, I think is certainly, a powerful way to draw people in and to start reflecting on these kind of deeper ideas. So I think that was very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and this is one of our challenges actually, because those of us who are used to the integral theory and the jargon, we have this jargon that we're very comfortable, the colors and the quadrants and so on. Well, how can we forge a vocabulary that is accessible to the mainstream. And I actually snuck a little bit of that in there when Mbe sees at one point, when she's starting to see the second tier, but we go on, we become part of the planetary consciousness, and yet we go on developing individually in consciousness, culture, science, and society. Those are the four quadrants.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you can substitute systems for society. So, one of my challenges for myself and for all of you is to start taking this beautiful meta theory that we are in love with, that is so powerful and profound, and can help us succeed in getting us over this hump into a beautiful integral future. How can we distill the essence into everyday language?
Mm.
So that's a challenge I have taken on. I'm gonna challenge all of you also. And thank you for bringing that up, Chris. Thank you for your group.
No. Well, and just to add to that, and I think it was it Larry had mentioned something about using AI to,
Yeah,
illustrate the story, and just with this idea of like appealing, how do you bring like this story or these ideas, integral
yeah,
theory into the mass population, and the idea of viral memes or viral things on
yeah,
social media, like what would that look like to have some sort of, uh, uh, you know, I guess story or clip or something that gains immense traction and is
yeah,
shared, in
yeah,
a large.
yeah. And this is thank you, Chris. Yes, and I'm gonna kind of push Cosmos Cooperative, which is an artist collective, which is very much an offspring of the whole Wilbur integral movement. And it's a group of creatives who
Mm,
have created this amazing organization where everybody contributes and supports each other and thrives together. And so this can be like part of the public face where we start let's tell some beautiful stories about our collective future. We may not get there, but if we have some hope and some ideas, and we've got this beautiful meta theory that gives us some practical tools to get there. Let's start telling. So this is going to be one of my challenges at the Icon conference. Let's start telling some beautiful stories about our possible futures, even if we don't quite believe in them. At least, we're here anyway. We might as well try. So anyway, Tom, yeah.
So when the priestess comes back in her body, you talked about one third were supportive. I suspect one third were on the fence and one third was still consumed by fear. That's the evolving edge, is that interplay between those three groups that most people at any point of anything evolutionary, it seems that what is it that we do in order to shift that middle third into the third that has faith again?
Yes.
Because Thomas Hoover made the point at one of the IECs, fear is hundreds of thousands of years old.
Yeah.
Plurality and love and inclusion is only hundreds of years old. If when there's abundant fear around, if somebody doesn't stabilize it quick enough, then the mobs are going to go into fear. You're going to lose the chance to bring them back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to see all of that kind of in the narrative, in addition to the individual level of the individual's own transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that isn't too much.
No, it's too much for this. However, in the novel, which is the larger story, which I adapted, it's not quite the same story trajectory, but in the novel, that is part of the lead up. I will also add on top of that, and you're right, but when push came to shove, when she stopped breathing, people had been, the people who were on her side but were afraid to do anything, they had been kind of organizing in the background secretly. And then when she stopped breathing, that galvanized them to face down the war gang and retrieve her body. I would like, I put this together long ago, but since the story wanted to come out now, I'm looking at what happened in Minneapolis and seeing what happened there galvanized the community. And they came together in this way, and look at this. And now the bullies had to back down, and now it's falling apart. So the terrible suffering, why is there God is all powerful and all love, why is there suffering? Sometimes it takes that degree of challenge for enough people to come together and say, and that galvanizes the change. It seems like we need that degree of being goosed by suffering to leap up into the next emergent level of complexity. I'm hoping that in future eras, we will be more conscious and guided by our higher selves and not have to go through this much suffering in order to evolve. But at any rate, I see Christine, I see you shaking your head. You want to say anything?
No, just that I think part of human nature, fear is a survival instinct. You know,
Yeah.
It's necessary. We're not going to get rid of fear. But yes, society evolves and develops different morals. I think morals have always been there, but they're changed by social norms and what we need in this day and age. I think morality has always existed, just like fear, and they'll continue. So, yeah.
Totally agreed. And that was one of the things in the story. It becomes conscious and intentional at the stage we would call the traditional religions, where we always, as tribes, a tribe where people have each other's back and support each other and have trust in the long run is going to outperform a tribe where people don't trust each other. Right. So in the long run, if you can survive long enough, the people who have the innate natural morality is also part of the long-term evolutionary success, and that becomes conscious and intentional when we start creating codes of moral, the 10 commandments on stone tablets. So yes, anyway. And I see Lynn, you've got your hand up. And then Tamar, if you're waiting. So Lynn and then Tamar.
Well, I'm eternally optimistic, and there's a physics principle. I'm not a physicist, but non-physicists know this or have been exposed to it, and that is whenever there's a force, there is an equal and opposite force.
Yes.
And it couldn't get much worse than it is, and we're seeing huge response. His popularity is going down. People who are supporting him are having the courage to object, not be so subservient. And we had the Buddhist march, etc. So it's like,
yes,
God will prevail.
Right.
Happy ending. That's me, cockeyed optimist.
Yes, we both have meditated a lot. We're pretty confident in some higher power. So yeah. So Tamar and then Suzanne.
I won't. Yeah, Tamara.
Okay, so I just wanted to relate to what Tam said. And yeah, fear is something that authoritarian regime have always used to control people. And you can see that that's what's happening now, that people we don't believe it's happening here. So you see it on the economic side, the rich become richer, the poor become poorer, and a lot of people that could live comfortably before and they didn't have to worry if they will have something to eat tomorrow, are more concerned. And the same thing actually happened in World War II. That caused fascism in one side and the communism in the other. The people were desperate and they had to find something to believe, which both sides, left and right, added in disaster. And it all starts with fear and, like wars. And I'm Israeli, I'm Jewish, and I was born in Israel, and I can tell you what war can do to people psyche, that it can just kind of drop it kind of. I cannot hear. I do not recognize the country that I was born with. There are a few people, of course, that do not succumb to it, and maybe it's something. Maybe if you are kind of close to the next, the second tier, you can no longer fall down. But if you are not high enough, I don't know. I just pray to God that it is. I'm not sure because I don't know that anybody studied this. Some people hold on and some people break down.
Yes.
But it's so easy, and democracy just survived because of the affluence. Because what democracy tried to do is to give it's a safety net and make people kind of relax and be able to develop and stuff. Because once you start with fear of war, of hunger, of you name it, an enemy come or whatever, you invented the demons, then
You invite the
we
demon.
have got to stand, I don't know how, we have got to stand up to this fear mongers. I mean, because
Yes.
these are the most dangerous thing. The dividers, the people that just try to take us all down in our development.
Yes, indeed, Tamar. Fear opens us to the demons, the inner
And that's
demons,
why I think we think as
Deimos and
integral,
Phobos.
yeah, to think also on the right side. I mean, we developed ourselves that we thought of a Ken thing, or more on the left side, our self-development culture war. We have to think, and I don't know how, more on the right side, because this is our institution, to keep our institution that at least promise freedom to everybody to speak. Because also authoritarian people do not like people like us who kind of think
No.
independently. All right, so yeah.
Thank you, Tamar. I guess we have time for Suzanne, one more Suzanne, and then it's probably time to wrap up the recorded part. So Suzanne, you get the last
Yeah.
word.
Two different responses about demons. What I do recognize is when you see goodness, and goodness is not something that pertains to particular stages. Virtues are far more,
Yeah.
you see good people anywhere, and not so fantastic people very late, when they test very late in stages. I'm sorry to say that.
You would know.
And second, the idea of entropy, of the universe ending, our universe, a very large scale future, but the sun is dissipating, everything is dissipating. That is a possibility as well. And not just negentropy, the complexifying, the beautifying, the getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't dream about things getting better. I don't say we shouldn't try to be good wherever we can, and helpful and brave and courageous. But I'm also aware of the other side.
Yes. Yes. Whenever there is light, there is shadow. That's going to be with us all the way.
All
Yeah.
the way. Yes.
All the way. And yet we've made it this far. Okay, I guess we turn it over to the hosts to wrap up the recorded portion. And anybody who wishes, I expect to stay on for the social part, and anyone who wants to stay on and just hang out, you're welcome
Right.
to.
So we're at the end of our formal time, and I want to respect that for people that want to drop off. And as you say, we can stop the recording. But anyways, I think you all join with me. This was a very creative, wonderful experience today, and we really thank Karen, our presenter, for doing this. And Karen, can you put in the chat information for people to follow up or see more?
I did put the link to the text on my website. It's up a bit.
Yeah, you probably should put
And
it down lower again.
okay, let
So,
me see if I still have it saved.
so as she
Yes.
does that, and
And that'll take you to my website. And there are a few other things that I've written too.
okay, great. And remember, Karen's going to be at ICON 2026. We don't know the format yet. We got to figure all that out. So I want to just do a quick reminder. In March 21st, we're going to be meeting. There's two people we're looking at for it. You're not going to want to miss either one of them. Either one of them are going to be pretty special coming on board. What's going to be happening right up to ICON is I'm inviting all the people that put applications in. Not all the people, some of them. We've got close to 80 applications already.
Woohoo.
And only 71 slots, the way I have it divided up right now. So RSVP for next month, the 21st, not the second Saturday. And anything else we need to do, Jerry? Anything else? Now we're back to our informal session. Actually, the informal session took off early in the way we did this. presentation. So without further ado, I'll open the floor to anyone who wants to chime in. So Karen, I'm curious why you put the priestess 11,000 years ago. Was there any reason for that?
Yes, because that was, as in my understanding of the anthropology, which is scattershot, that was that when agriculture, actually tilling the soil, really took hold. And Embe she was raised to be a shaman. She was raised tribal. She was raised to be a shaman, but she ended up settling in one of the very, very, very first year-round settlements where they did agriculture, where instead of just harvesting existing wheat fields, they actually planted seeds. And that was a huge shift. It was like this newfangled technology that's changing everything when you're no longer nomadic or moving between summer grounds and winter grounds. You're staying in one place. You've got a lasting community. I imagine it was as disruptive to them as our new technologies are to us.
Thank you.
It was a shift. The shift from foraging to farming, and people are still used to the old ways and still getting used to the new ways and in the messy middle. But then new archaeological finds keep coming up that keep messing with how I understand the history work. No, I've got to change my novel.
One of the things I liked, Karen, was the fact that you included this arc, which obviously was spiral and first tier, second tier, there was
Yes.
that. But it was very personal because she was going to die. I mean, that's where you started. And each of us has to deal with that.
Yeah.
In a very, obviously, in a very personal and deep way. So there was this juxtaposition of her own personal experience as well as this bigger picture that you were talking about. And I just found that really interesting that you put those together.
Thank you. Yes, and it was not my intention that I thought this was just like a personal exercise, and the
Yeah.
two pieces really don't fit together. And as I've revised it again and again over the years to try to make them mesh more smoothly into each other, they really don't fit together. I had to kind of work overtime. But picking that narrative arc just brought it, I just wanted a few pieces of story to wrap around it, just so it wouldn't be dead to me, so that it would be alive to me. And then, oh my God, it took on its own energy. And, that's a good thing for a creative writer, right? When something you think you're creating takes on a life of its own. But sometimes it can feel like wrestling a fire hose too. Like what you said about the like, no, I will die in 2 days. Like, okay, that's like when I choked when I was reading it. Some of it wasn't acting. It was like,
Yeah.
it's intense.
Yeah. It's very personal, but also the big picture, but also very personal. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't help but relate to her struggle. Yeah.
Wow, that's a polarity now that you mentioned. Oh, polarity. Cool. We're into polarities, right?
It's kind of interesting because this fictional work really opens it up for people that aren't going to read Integral. They're not going to read The Theory of Everything, stuff like that. But even all of us just showing up here today, we're all feeding this evolutionary impulse by
Yes.
doing this because we're
Yes.
making the potential for this become more mainstream narrative
Yes.
higher and higher, the more we infuse it with the vision and the energy. So in some ways, Karen's writing fiction, we're writing reality.
Yes.
And that's some of the energy we feel in, the visioning of Icon
Yes.
is we need a place where people get refueled, where you're running into other people that have that capability to affirm the energy you're dispersing. So I don't mean to minimize what you're doing, Karen, because you are, even though you're doing it fictional. In a way, we're the writers really doing it in a form of reality. Or maybe they're all forms of reality.
Yes, the stories we tell ourselves matter. And those of you here, most of you, maybe all of you, there are subtle energies. There are subtle planes of existence. And our thoughts, our stories, the stories we tell ourselves, those of you who are therapists know how powerful the stories we tell ourselves are in shaping our reality. The stories we tell ourselves individually, the stories we tell ourselves collectively, they play, we're still just starting to understand how powerfully they shape our world. So and this again is my challenge, let's tell ourselves some beautiful stories about our possible future, futures that could be possible, futures that could be possible from where we are now. Imagine what could be possible. And then that gives us a sense of where we can go. These are stories that can help counteract, because the amygdala, our fear is going to be with us. That's hardwired. Since we were multicellular creatures, we've got our amygdalas. Okay, they have their evolutionary place, but telling ourselves beautiful stories about possible futures and stories that can resonate in environments like these conferences that Tom and so many of you are working so hard. I feel this is our job. Other people are doing regenerative communities and social justice. That's beautiful. But this creative work is also part of a larger resonant coherence, closer to coherence. Woohoo. Okay. Oh, Larry, I see your hand.
I just wanted to say that I would not be here if it wasn't for Herman Hesse. And he was
Really?
a fiction writer. And, especially the glass speed game. We're playing it
Oh,
right now,
oh my God,
That's
yes.
my point.
Oh my God, yes, the glass speed game. When I was a graduate student, I had to learn to read German because the stuff I was studying a lot of it was in German. And there were, oh my God, thousands of woman hours clawing my way through German academic writing, page-long sentences with all the verb forms clustered at the end. But I read two works of fiction in German. One was Lord of the Rings, which I adore, and the other was The Glass Speed Game. Because I love it so much that I think, oh, just to learn German. I know the story, so I'll read it in German. That's worth going back to. Yeah, we are playing the glass bead game.
Herman Hesse depressed me when I read it. That existentialism, aware of the postmodern lack of constructs. I always called existentialism a hissy fit to the
Yeah.
absence of certainty.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I never said it was fun.
I said it was fun. They weren't kidding.
Well, but the end, I remember the first time I read it, it blew me away because I was not very familiar. I kind of knew that reincarnation existed, but you go through the long trajectory of the story and it's kind of gloomy because, Western civilization has degraded and it's no longer powerful but then you have all these appendage tales at the end and I wasn't taking them very seriously. And then I got the last one is spiritual. And it's a young man who goes to a meditation master. So this is the developmental trajectory, and there is a beautiful spiritual foundation to it. It is going somewhere beautiful. And when that last story landed on me, I just like, oh my God, yes, I see the light. I suddenly saw a bigger picture. But I'll agree with you. I have this thing, postmodernism, existentialism. I'm going to propose a crazy theory. Um, Dystopian futures, stories about dystopian futures. I propose as a theory that this is a characteristic of unhealthy green and it's time we outgrow it.
I was just going to say something like that. Why Wilbur picks on mean green so much?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the only thing that can really help evolution is a positive image. It can't be dystopian because then people revert back to traditionalism. And mean green, I do a ton of it too, is my impatience with people that get stuck sometimes, especially if they're in politics. It's tough, but it's going
Yeah.
to be the vision that it's going to help evolution.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Yes. The vision is essential.
Yeah. I don't know if it's related, but so many people now are attracted to fantasy, which seemed to me kind of escape even from everything. And I don't know, I'm just throwing it in. I don't know what to do with it. But actually people maybe kind of do not want to read something that is applied too much to the reality as even in a literary mode.
I imagine it could be either way. It could be
Yeah,
escapism,
fantasy can be very realistic, only
but it can also be visioning. The vision, we're kind of imagining what is possible, being open to new
every
ideas.
literature is, fantasy. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
reality,
yeah.
but sometimes it's so fantastic that it's really, it's not vision, it's just something away. I mean, different world, different creatures, different, I mean, so different that there is no application even to. Okay, well, yeah, I agree. But yeah, everything you can do depending what medium depends what you do with it. So
Yeah.
But the role of fantasy brings up possibility.
yes.
And it's interesting. People turn on a movie and suspend reality testing as they enter that vision.
Right.
Whereas in other applications, they become very rigid and afraid to consider possibilities.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
who said in our group? Someone in our group said art is going to be the vehicle. It's always been the vehicle. Larry said that. It's always been the vehicle to usher in the new possibilities.
Bye, Trudy. Thanks
Hi,
for
Trudy.
coming.
See your icon, Trudy. She's already signed up.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, I met her. We had a couple of really groovy long conversations at the last icon. Yeah, but about the mean green meme, I Ken will just go on and on and on and on and on and on about it. But there is, gosh, in a reading group, I think with Charles Marx, we were looking at critiques of Wilbur and his works, and we torture tested Wilbur's alcohol theory. And one it stood the test with, although there are a few changes I would like to make, but the basic model stood the test. However, there was one commentator, and I think it was Jenny Wade, but I'm not positive sure, so don't quote me. But one of the adjustments another critic wanted to make was to see that green was not a separate stage. It was just kind of a bifurcation, and we actually go directly from modern, and basically postmodern is not really a separate stage. We go directly from modern into integral, and we tried that out. And I disagree. I see postmodernism as its own very much discrete step by my metrics in my charts. By the way I analyze it, it is its own very separate discrete stage. However, there was a large kernel of truth at the core of that critique, because what green postmodernism is, it's the end stage of first tier. And I think Wilbur was right that the move and the spiral dynamics also, the move into second tier is a whole new order of magnitude leap. It starts a whole new tier. And so what that postmodernism is the end stage of first tier when it all starts breaking down. So the old structures, the core that had been with us all along, some of that starts to disintegrate. So at that level, having these dystopian futures being pervasive throughout postmodernism, oh my God, all the postmodern dystopian fiction. But that is appropriate as a end stage that the first tier has gone as far as it can go on its own terms.
Yeah, can it?
Right. And it was existentialism that really
Yes,
got into the pain of it. And,
yes,
the main movement was in the 20s. We're 100
yeah,
years away from it now.
yeah.
And we're starting to see the healthier green emerge.
Yes, and there is a healthy and an essential. I mean, every one of those stages has its own, not just healthy part, but parts of it are absolutely essential for anything further. It's like a high-rise building. You need every stage to have structural integrity, and each each level has its own unique contribution to the integrity of the structure on up. So
Yeah.
green has its own absolutely essential role to play, but then every stage has its own vulnerabilities, its own shadows and limitations too. But they are different. The specifics are different for each stage. And as a cultural historian, that's what I love to play with. Tamara, you were.
Yeah, I wanted to
Please.
kind of, I agree with you. And for just talking for personal experience, green is a stage from hell because it breaks certainty. I mean, you had certainty in religion and then in science, and all of a sudden,
Science.
boom, everything is relative.
Yeah.
And you have got to have a lot of strength and kind of center to say, to stay and say, yeah, but there are some things that are true, because I know that they are true. They're not relative, because otherwise you really get to the existentialism, nothing then, and everything is the same, and all this shtick. And we know that, yeah, there is truth in many things, but there are some truths that are better than the others. Then some people, something like if you believe that it's bad to hurt people, no matter what the reason is, it is, and that's it. Period. And you've got still to believe in something to maintain some center, and it's very difficult. And my concern with which I hear some, I had in one of these group, that we create. I mean, I spoke with very young, I don't know, millennial, and I told her how torture it was for me to go through green. And she said, it's very easy. Everybody speak like this, and this is the main thing, that you learn the jargon, and you want to fit in, and you actually a conformist. You just conform to the language, and we see what happened. Somebody says something, everybody believes the same thing, which means, yeah, nobody believes. This is a scary thing, because it takes so much mental strength. And some people, like you talk, they talk about ambiguity. I know that they went through it, but if somebody tells you it's so easy, I can hardly believe that they really go through. And for me, it was just going from I know that I don't know to I know that I don't know, but I know that I know. For me, this is kind of the polarity between not knowing because we don't know, but still there are things that I know. This for me was a transition to the second tier, because you've got to have something that you know, despite the fact that you know that your picture is kind of partial. So I think it's difficult. I mean, I guess everybody can describe it in different way, what their experience was, but I think the older people had to go really through green and through orange and get orange before they moved to green. And some people, I think, just skip orange, and they just, this is my fear, that because of the difficulty in this stage, it's hard to, it's your, I don't know. I can understand when people don't go to the mean green, because it's easier.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, green is an interesting case. Long before, gosh, when I was in college, long before Wilbur started publishing, I've always been at heart a cultural historian. I mean, Tolkien did it to me at age 15. But I kind of got the sense that the 20th century, they're like, okay, existentialism, okay, that's the thing for the 20th century. But to me, I just felt there were three key works of culture that seemed to epitomize postmodernism, existentialism for me. One was the poetry of T.S. Eliot, The Wasteland. I will show you fear in a handful of dust. Right, although he gave a spiritual answer. And the other one was the play Waiting for Godot, where God never arrives, waiting for God, Godot. And this magnificent rant by the one character who just says there is no meaning, and the ultimate, once we've lost our faith in God and we no longer trust science, because look what science is doing to us, and what are we left with? Well, really, if we follow science to the end, it's the heat death of the universe. Life has no meaning, and all we're left with, there's no God, God never arrives. And all we're left with is the heat death of the universe. It's a manifestation of despair. Those are Godot's. And then the number 3 was the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I grew up with as an undergraduate. I saw a Rocky Horror Picture Show at midnight many times. And it ends, and it's a lot of fun. However, it ends with the lines, and crawling on the planet's face, an insect called the human race, lost in time, lost in space, and lost in meaning. And those 3 works of culture kind of, to me, before I ever had a really articulated sense, just viscerally, they kind of encapsulated existentialism for me. And then I discovered Wilbur and started reading it, and then that made even more sense to me. But this, so I see Green, postmodernism, as its own discrete tier. It's necessary. It has many beauties, but it is by itself. If it goes no further, if it can see no further than itself, it's ultimately a culture of despair. So.
That's really a good point, because remember we talked about the days of television when there were 3 television stations?
Yes, I remember.
And that narrative kind of defined all of our identities.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time where 4 major worldviews are pontificating at the same time? I mean, it's incredible. They're all in contradiction and angry at each other, and none of them are grounding us. And integral isn't strong enough to really assume the mantle of deliverance yet. But 4 major worldviews all yelling at the same time.
I don't know. Because to me, I mean, I really integrated. I mean, for me, transcend and include is real. For me, science was just not sufficient. I came to psychology, well, when it was all, Skinner, I want to understand learning. So I got a book like this about rats running in a maze. Thank you. I think that I felt that even the rats are smarter than Skinner gave them credit for, much less people. I know everything I can get. I mean, and I just ran away from psychology. And the same sociology, they were my 2 major. I thought I'll learn this, I'll understand everything. Okay, the good thing about being critical and judgmental, which I had too much of, that you can see bullshit, when you recognize bullshit when you see it. So I was, okay, that's not what I'm looking for. And to me, science is descriptive. Science never gives you meaning. So it's important. We would not have all the machines and everything that we are using, and medicine, sometimes they don't know what they are doing, but if it helps, they use it, okay. Even if they don't know even why it works or whatever, thought it will work for one thing and then it works for another. They don't really know what they are doing, also they kind of pretend they do, but we need it. I mean, but it's not enough. For me, it has never been, you want to really understand it, it's not enough. So for me, it was a rational decision to try to go to intuition and to look in other places. For me, it's not, I really transcended and included, but, to transcend science, you're on your own, baby. That's it. You're going to figure out what's going on, and this is difficult.
But at least we can include it. Larry, did I see you?
Yes, I just
raising your hand there.
I have 2 Rocky Horror comments here. Just remember, don't dream it, be it.
Yeah.
And just remember, in terms of the entire spiral, is just a jump to the left and a step to the right.
To the right. Put your hand on your hips and hold your knees in tight. But it's the pelvic thrust that really drives you insane. Let's do the time warp again. Yes.
I'm so glad we got that on tape.
Yeah.
And it's all your fault, Larry.
I'm an instigator of song.
You're an instigator.
Eli posted the Kevin Wilbur quote used, Karen, from what days?
Yeah, I just saw. Thank you, Eli. Those who are permitted to see are simultaneously saddled with the obligation to communicate that vision in no uncertain terms. And that is what we are trying to do. We've had some sense of depth here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has any of you seen on some of the integral Facebook pages, there's people railing against even the thought that we have some capacity to create a positive vision and affect evolution in a positive way. Have any of you read some of the limited posters that have said that?
Mhm.
Yeah, there are some. And
Okay.
it's amazing how much airtime they get.
Yeah.
So even Kokroda was saying that a little bit. If it winds down into entropy, well, we're talking billions of years. We don't know
Yeah.
what's going to evolve concurrently with that
Yeah.
entropy slowing down.
Yep. And yet the universe has a 13.82 billion year track record of negating entropy, of coming up with structures of greater complexity that can hold consciousness of greater complexity. That's a pretty robust set of data, I'd say. 13.82 billion years.
I'm thinking there's no such thing as entropy. There's in nature, there's expansion and there's contraction. And
Yeah.
that's it. There is no entropy. That's an invention. But I don't know.
Isn't that the second law of thermodynamics?
Second law of thermodynamics, you know.
Well, you know, I'm a little limited in that area.
Yeah, Lynn's not a scientist, but yeah, if things left to themselves will tend to break down into lesser complexity unless you put work in from outside the system.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. So that means we're called on to put in a little effort here.
Another thought that I've had trickling through all this is about the stories. You know, we've had stories since the beginning of time, and people remember stories, and they just get passed down from generation to generation. And each one of us here is living a story, the story of our own personal lives. And they're all completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how change happens.
Yeah. It's stories, and that's what we do with our fancy schmancy prefrontal cortexes. And that was one of Embe's thing. They're one of her gestures. Images arise in our minds, and we have words. And with that, we see patterns, and we tell ourselves stories that make sense of those patterns. That is what we do as Homo sapiens.
Yes.
That seems to be our specialty.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's tell some stories.
As a cultural.
Go ahead, Lynn, and then go ahead, finish, Lynn, and then we'll go to
Okay,
Tamar.
well, I just wanted to ask a question. As a cultural historian, I'm wondering, you know, as we've gone down through history, there have been periods of expansion and of relative peace. You know, you have people and now countries communicating with each other through commerce. You know,
Yes.
the Silk Road back when and so forth. And when you have that, you don't have it's not the war. The war is not the communication. It's like commerce brings cooperation and war brings competition. And
Yes.
what bothers me is how popular competition is. Like we just had the big Super Bowl and so forth. We worship the sports arena, and we all have winners and losers. And I really am a stand for the win-win situation, you know, just to bring outsiders' perspective on and you know, I'm getting moved through all these talks that are so interesting. I'm getting moved to trying to figure out an easy way to learn all about the tiers and the colors and so forth.
We'll talk.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that, you know, there has to be a way of conveying this to the uninitiated public.
Yes.
You know,
That's still a work in progress, I'm
Paul
afraid.
Singh says simplify.
Simplify, simplify. Yeah,
How are we
that's a
going to do
check.
that? When
But I'm
you
going to say, Lynn, I got to say about the Super Bowl. I mean, you know, the halftime show. I watched the halftime show, and the message of that Bad Bunny.
I love.
Love is stronger than hate.
Yes.
Right. I mean, the message of the halftime was so beautiful and so unifying. But I want to say back up to one thing, if I can, if my aging brain can track it. Yes, the trade, and that was one of the key pieces in Mbe's story, is once we become Homo sapiens, we start trading with other tribes. No other animal that we know of does that. Animals will give and share. You know, they will give away. Some of them can make tools. Some of them, most of the other things we can do, some of them sing for the pleasure of singing. One thing, as soon as we became Homo sapiens, as soon as we have archaeological evidence for Homo sapiens, we have evidence of one person swapping something for another thing, right? Okay, trade is as old as Homo sapiens. So it's not just, sometimes we fight the other tribe, but sometimes we use hand gestures and trade. And I'm going to burble a bit now. Captain Cook's voyage around the world was 1700s, I think, and he stopped tribes that had never seen anybody from outside their little world. Sometimes they would fight, sometimes they would flee, sometimes they would cautiously approach. The ones that would cautiously approach, every single one of them, whether they were in South America or in the Pacific or in any of the other places they stopped around the world, they all understood trade. Like, you cautiously approach and set down a knife and they'll kind of confer, and then they'll cautiously approach and set down, I don't know, 20 coconuts or something and back off. And when they every tribe that was willing to encounter them at all understood trade. That is something. So but that's competition, but then there's the cooperation, and that's the polarity. It's one of those dynamic polarities.
We have trade involves what's in it for me.
But it's a win-win.
Animals,
it's a win-win because it has to be something for both. And this is actually orange, and that's why democracy, orange, usually they are less war because they try to negotiate rather than
animals take care of each other.
Yes, but they don't trade.
When a parent gets killed, another animal will take in that baby and nurse that baby to life without any expectation of a payback. Whereas trade always involves what's in it for me.
Yeah, but if you negotiate instead of fight and everybody gain because everybody gets something they don't have, that's fine, right?
I love that. I agree with that.
Yeah, because
absolutely.
And
one interaction occurs within the community, and the other interaction occurs between communities.
Between communities, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the I space and the we space. Yeah.
Bingo.
I kind of wanted to throw in two things. I mean, we love stories, and the good thing about stories that we can understand them in many levels, because you can just read it like a story, tell what happened, and you can, the higher you are, I mean, you can find deeper meaning. While if it's kind of scientific thing, I mean, some people will not even look at it, and not everybody can understand all the research style and whatever thing. So the good thing, because we are mythic people, I mean, the mythic is kind of common, it's kind of low denominator to all of us. It's a good a way to kind of share ideas without specifying the idea, just showing it. Like in the past, they didn't use research. I mean, they, like you see the Bible or the Greek had kind of started a bit logic, but still there were a lot of fables and stuff which they use analogy rather than kind of what lead to what and showing experiential evidence. So people understand story and they can see themselves in the story, whatever their ability to see things. The other thing that we are talking about consciousness and science as if they're different, and I'm also in ions, and I can tell you that a lot of people, a lot of scientists now actually understand that the science can no longer be work without without consciousness, and this is because of quantum physics, that actually the observer affect what we see, and everything is potential, and what affects the potentiality, everything can go in many ways. It's up to us whatever it will go. And I heard somebody who said, I'm not physicist, but he had kind of, I don't know, some inspiration or whatever, that he kind of got him to psychiatrist hospital, but he got out of it, and he say, well, I know that there is this consciousness world, and more possibility, but still there is a classical work that works according to all the physical laws that
Yes.
are there, and you kind of looking where do they touch, and kind of this is something that kind of break my mind now, where kind of these two worlds, kind of the pragmatic, the one that you're familiar with, where do they touch, and how can they come together, how they work together. And yeah, this was kind of fascinating, and I just heard him this week, and I'm still kind of
Who is this? What was the
his
name?
name is Paul Levy, and he wrote a book, and I think I
Okay.
ordered it.
Now you can tell me another time we're in a group together, but this fascinates me. Yeah. And
because
I like to
this is
play
kind of
with this too.
interesting. He's not physicist. I can order his book on Amazon, and I want to read it because he's not physicist. So I'm sure that the basic of quantum we all can understand. That everybody heard the basic experiences without kind of knowing all the formulas and the math and whatever that goes into it. So it's really amazing, because at the end. And I heard some physicists really cannot see. And you see in astronomy what I heard. The more they go up, the more they have telescope, all of a sudden things do not behave according to the theory. So they've got to go further, because the more information you have, the more, the world become bigger when you have telescope and everything. And all of a sudden, oops, we need to see, because it doesn't behave like the theories that we have predict. So we must break out of the framework that we work in to think higher. The question is how you can tell a story that will drive everybody. Yeah.
Yes, wow, to your point. Yes, I love thinking about these things too. Tamar, yes, there is always a larger context. Newton's three laws of motion. Oh my God, that correlated so much at the time. People had been observing the motions of the planets for thousands of years and coming up with these theories. And Newton comes up with three simple mathematical laws, and suddenly the motion of the planets all makes sense. In fact, there's a poem by Pope. Nature and nature's laws lay hid in night. God said, let Newton be. And there was light, which is kind of why it's called the Enlightenment. That was enlightening. So
but
that
it
was
only
the
seems
but that
everything
was
work on that. It's not
but
that
that
it's
was
not true. Only it's not all the truth,
it's
right?
not all the truth. So that was the orthodoxy. And then along comes quantum physics, right? Quantum and dark matter, dark energy, and so on. And it's not like Newton was wrong. It's not like force stopped being equal to what mass times acceleration. It's just that now exists in a larger context. It's not the only laws. And now we're up at a point where oh wait, there's even more. Oh my God. So yeah, and that's one of the truths, the lasting, enduring truths of postmodernism that we need to take with us. There is always a larger context. We may think we've got it all, but there's always going to be a larger context. So maybe it can keep us humble.
Yeah.
Well, we're losing people and I'm starting to fade. Is there anything anybody passionately wants to say before we start winding down?
Nighty night.
Thanks for coming, Lynn. Great to see you here.
Okay, good night.
For further information, including upcoming events, resources, links to our Facebook and Meetup pages, and our fabulous donate button, please visit our website at sandiegointegral.org. Donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue to provide information and connection within the Integral community.